Hey guys, welcome to the Truth Factor. It is Renee, and we have some headlines to go over. Some of it is just updates. We had a busy, busy afternoon, I guess you could say. And let's get into this. I've got a lot of news to cover, and because of that live earlier, just want to make sure we're good over here. I think I am, but there we go. Yeah. And we're good on Joshua TV. Oh, mercy. I hate it when he does that. There we go. Yay. Okay, guys. So, let me get right into these articles. Lots of news to cover. And I know we were talking earlier today about all of the insane, incidences we've had lately. And again, there was the active shooting that we had earlier today, and so many people left dead, and all the school lockdown and everything that we had earlier today. You guys just never know from one day to the next what's going to happen. Now, I want to read to you the latest article that I found was from Reuters, and they had put an update on about an hour ago. It was 6 minutes, technically, whenever I got this article. But this is what Reuters is saying. Okay, guys, I have to... There we go. Sorry. Okay, so Reuters says that at least 6 are dead, including 2 suspected gunmen in New Jersey shooting, which we definitely already know this. Greenfield, Indiana has an active SWAT situation right now? Really? Oh my goodness sakes. Let me see what we can find here. Let me see. This is crazy, guys. Crazy stuff. And I didn't even get that breaking news, girl. Greenfield? If I did, I didn't check it. Greenfield, Indiana. Hi, Helen. How are you, honey? Greenfield, Indiana. Sure. I'm not finding that one, Marley. Greenfield, Indiana. Active. How are you, Helen? I am so good to see you. Hi, JR. Yeah, I'm not finding that one, Marley. It was just posted. Who was it just posted by? Do you know? All right, well, before we get into the headlines here, let me come over here and check. I'm checking my breaking news. I don't see anything breaking here. But I have more than one app, so you had 3 schools on lockdown for almost an hour because of shooting close to their schools that left 1 person dead. Are you in New Jersey? Ty? That's the story we've been covering this afternoon. Yeah, I'm not seeing that breaking, Marley. Amarillo, Texas. Wow, Amarillo. Let me see, guys. Let me see what we can find in Amarillo here. Of course, it never gives me anything good here when I do that. You said, Ty, one person dead, let's see. We'll do shooting. Sometimes you have to, it didn't give me anything under the school's lockdown. Mm-hmm. And that was today, you would think. Texas. Yeah. Let me see. And it's active right now, Marley? Sweetheart, I'm serious trying to find Greenfield. Are you listening to the on the scanner? Indiana. Are you listening to it on the scanner, Marley? Type in Greenfield SWAT. Okay. All right, guys. Let's see. SWAT. Okay. Is that just the most bizarre thing? Okay, and I am still looking for your story. See, I don't know if I see any live footage, but we will. You know, if I've got live, I'll take you live, always. Okay, so this is coming out. This is breaking thanks to Marley's house vlog, and telling me how to key it in here, because it wasn't coming up, and I was putting Greenfield, Indiana, Greenfield shooting. I put it every which way, but did not put Greenfield SWAT. So anyway. So apparently we have a Greenfield police urged some residents to shelter in place during an active SWAT situation. This was updated 31 minutes ago. Greenfield, and this is from WTHR Channel 13. It's an NBC affiliate. It says Greenfield, Indiana, police are working on an active SWAT situation on the west side of downtown Greenfield. Greenfield police posted to Facebook that they have an activity is ongoing in the 700 block of West Main Street, just east of the interstate of Main and Broadway. Main Street is the name for the US 40 as it passes through Greenfield. Police are urging residents in the area to shelter in place as safety precaution. Several streets are closed in the area, police said, including Main and North Street from Wilson Street to Broadway Street and South Street from Center Street to Broadway. Okay, guys, so apparently we have another situation. Yeah, still 5 missing. Yeah, I was reading that article, and I just so happened to look up, and I saw Marley's text, and I saw Ty's text about... okay, I'm trying to find the article for you. It was on News 10. Okay, so I will look. Okay, so I got a News 10 pulled up, and we will see. Okay. Lockout, and here we go, and I have it. Thank you, Ty. That was easy to find. Okay, so we had another situation with some schools being locked down, coming from Amarillo, Texas. In this story, I got the lead from Ty Palmino. I hope I said your last name right. And Marley broke with a story here, telling me that Greenfield, Indiana has a live situation going on. And I am going to look to see if I can get live footage for that. But right now, let me go ahead and cover this story that happened this afternoon in Amarillo. It says there was a lockout on Amarillo schools lifted after the police investigation. Amarillo, Texas, KFDA, the lockout on Amarillo schools have been lifted after a police investigation continues. According to the Amarillo Independent School District, the 3 schools were placed on a 45-minute lockout this afternoon. Those schools are Bowie Middle School, Bowie 6th grade campus, and Sanborn Elementary School. That lockout has been lifted by Amarillo Police Department. However, the incident did not directly involve the schools. During the lockout, the outside doors were locked and students were safe inside while classes continued. Details are limited at this time, but we will keep you up to date. So they're not even telling you what actually transpired in Amarillo, but there was another school system. And I guess it's good that you take, these extra measures to make sure that the children are safe. So then we have in Greenfield, like I said, this ongoing situation. And it says police are urging the residents to stay in shelter in place of safety precaution. And there is no further information, but we will see if I can find live footage for this area. Okay. No, not like that. Yeah. Outside of possibly I will, after we get through the headlines, I will, if I don't get any live feed, we'll probably go to listen to it on the scanner and see what we can hear, okay? Because there's no live feed that I could find right now. I don't know if anyone else has any live feed. If you do, you tell me what channel and I will go to it, but I'm not finding live feed for the situation that is ongoing right now in Greenfield, Indiana, where the police are urging some residents to shelter in place during the SWAT situation. And that's all that it is given on WTHR right now. So then we were discussing, recapping, I guess we should say. There is a recap of at least 6 dead, including 2 suspected gunmen in Jersey City shooting in New Jersey. At least 6 people, including 1 police officer and 2 suspected gunmen, were killed in a shootout around a New Jersey grocery store across the Hudson River from Manhattan on Tuesday after prompting a security lockdown of area schools. Officials in local media said 5 people, 3 civilian victims, and 2 suspects were pronounced dead inside the store. And a police detective also died in the exchange of gunfire, in which hundreds of rounds were fired. Police Chief Michael Kelly said he believed the dead were all struck by gunfire from the suspects, who arrived at the scene in U-Haul truck and held police at bay around the store for hours in a deadly standoff. Their movement was rapid and continuous for 4 hours within that area. The chief said local media reported that the shooting unfolded at or near the J.C. Kosher supermarket, though police said there were no immediate evidence that bloodshed was terror-related. 2 or more police officers and civilians were wounded in the shootout, but were in stable condition, the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office posted on Twitter. The deceased officer was a father of 5, police said. The standoff prompted a massive law enforcement deployment with local SWAT teams and federal agents rushing to the scene, as well as emergency services from the neighboring New York City Police Department. All schools in Jersey City, which faces Manhattan across the Hudson River, were placed on lockdown, which was lifted later in the afternoon, according to the mayor and local media. So they even had Manhattan on lockdown, guys. Few official details of the gun violence were immediately available, but local media reported that the confrontation between suspects and police started in or near a cemetery and was linked to a previous homicide investigation. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Twitter just received a briefing of the horrific shootout that took place in Jersey City, New Jersey. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families during their very difficult and tragic time. And it says that they'll continue to monitor the situation and assist the local and state agencies. Okay, so in retrospect to all of these shootings, we had covered a couple of these stories, but we're just going to recap. We were talking about the situations that happened last week with the with both of the bases, the one in Florida, the one naval base, and the one in Hawaii. There was also the Black Hawk that went down, and we also had this story break 2 days ago, and which we reported on here from Fox News, that the Arkansas police officer was ambushed and executed in a fatal shooting outside of the department, chief says. And we're going to recap just a little bit, but this says that the Fayetteville Police Department sent a news release that the incident happened around 9:42, where the officer in the station heard gunshots, went outside and heard additional gunshots before encountering a suspect behind the police department fleeing the area. After a confrontation where the suspect was shot and killed, deputies discovered Officer Stephen Carr shot inside his patrol vehicle. And we did cover that story the other day when it broke, but again, I did place all of these articles in Wixit, and I don't believe I linked it to the description box today. Bad me, but I will get a link real quick for you guys and give you that link before the end of the show. But let me just do it real quick. Let's see. But there was also, and I did not cover this story, there was a suspect that was in Boston that 3 days ago that says that the double murder claims he had an affair with one of the victims. And just a recap on this here, Pomona Teixeira is the former doorman of a luxury condo building in South Boston, where Dr. Richard Field and Dr. Lina Balnas lived. He is the suspect in the murder. According to the management company, he had only worked as a doorman at the building for a few short weeks. Teixeira had been released from prison before murders after serving time for bank robbery. Field and Bolanos were found in their 11th floor condominium in May of 2017 with their hands bound and their throats slit. Field had sent text messages to his friend before he died that there was a gunman in the house, but which police arrived, it was too late, according to the prosecutors. Officers arrested the 30-year-old Teixeira after fire shots down a dark hallway. He was wounded in the hand and leg and abdomen. It says, according to Teixeira's testimony, when Field got home, he caught the two having an affair. He became enraged with jealousy and killed his wife. So, and I think that, anybody given that situation, you can't hate on someone, because you never know what you're going to do if you came home and found your spouse cheating on you. Then we also had this, this here came from Houston 2 days ago, and it says that a Houston police officer was fatally shot while responding to a domestic dispute. Suspect is in custody, and this it says a woman reported to police that her boyfriend was assaulting her and armed with 2 firearms. When Sergeant Christopher Brewster, 32, found the couple 3 streets away from the house police had responded to, the suspect shot him as he got out of his car, police said. Although he was mortally wounded, he had the presence of mind to draw his pistol out and his holster to protect himself in case the suspect came up, and he also had the presence of mind and courage to put out the broadcast suspect information that was critical for the responding units, Houston Police Chief Art Acevedo said. Acevedo said the shooting was captured on Brewster's body camera. What people will see is a coward who took the life of a hero. Brewster died about 30 minutes after the shooting. Acevedo said the 25-year-old suspect, armed with a semi-automatic pistol, was arrested near school after he fled the scene. And that's another shooting. And then this shooting here, and I can't believe this supposedly happened a day ago, and I don't recall reading this one, but this here says that it's from Fox News. An Alabama boy, which is 5, he was killed in the crossfire between 2 women, were in state of shock. A 5-year-old Alabama boy was fatally shot when he got caught in the middle of a gunfight between 2 women on Saturday, police said. Tenarius T.J. Moore died from a shooting which unfolded in Birmingham around 2:30 p.m. 2 women who are related to each other began shooting at each other, leaving Tenarius hit in the crossfire. It wasn't immediately clear if Tenarius was related to either of the women, one of whom is in custody. As of Saturday, Tenarius was pronounced dead at the nearby hospital later that day, according to officials. The child had a bright future, his football coach Taboy Darden wrote on Facebook. He said the boy had recently been named to the All-Star team, and his death hurts even more knowing he's gone because of senseless act of violence. TJ was loved by all of the coaches and his teammates. He was the heart and soul of our defense and will honor him every time we take the field. The coach stated, "I'm proud to say I had the honor to coach him. I wish I had the words to express to his family, but under the circumstances, I don't." Darden said that while his coach of the Youth Football League, Tenarius, will not be forgotten. Hug your little ones. Tell them that you love them. Show them what love is. There's a family right now that we all love that won't get to do that anymore, he added. I'm a strong believer in God, and I know he will help us get through this. He gained a special one today, and I hope he knows that whoever was playing TJ's position before he got there is headed to the bench. Birmingham Cedar Councilman William Parker told AL.com, which that's Alabama.com. He was rushed to the scene when they heard the news describing the situation is awful. We're just in the state of shock. This is just horrible. I just don't know how anyway else can describe it, he said. We will embrace and uplift the community over the next couple of days and weeks and make sure this never happens again. A young man is not here with us. This is horrible. A young child is not going to be here for Christmas, the councilman added. A unity walk for Tenarius honor is scheduled to begin at Massillon Park at 6 p.m. on Monday. And he was a handsome young man, and this is just horrible, guys. Horrible. But this is the stuff that's been going on the last couple of days. And again, we have, according to KHTR, we have another live situation happening. And it's just horrible. Horrible, horrible. And then earlier today, when we were doing our broadcast, I saw these articles, and a couple of them was given to me by my listeners, and they put in chat, and we touched on this earlier, but I'm going to touch on these again because, you know, it's been a crazy day. And this happened today. This happened this morning, in fact. It says, and this has come from Stanford Advocate, New Canaan, a nearly 2-year-old boy died after being struck by a vehicle in the driveway of North Wilton Road home Tuesday morning. In a statement, Lieutenant Jason Ferrero said The New Canaan Police Department received a 911 call at 8:42 a.m. about a young child that had been struck by a vehicle in the driveway. Within a few minutes of the call, New Canaan Police, New Canaan Fire, and New Canaan Emergency Medical Services first responders arrived at the residence to provide emergency medical care. Ferraro said the gravely injured child was transported to Norwalk Hospital, where emergency room personnel provided emergency care. Despite the valiant efforts of many first responders and emergency personnel, the child succumbed to the grave injuries. The incident is under investigation by the New Canaan Police Accident Reconstruction Team, as well as members of the Wilton and Darien Police Department's Accident Reconstruction Teams. We ask that the entire New Canaan community put this child and the child's family in their thoughts and prayers, Ferraro said. We are all grieving as we cope with the tragic loss, Ferraro said. Further information would be immediately released. New Canaan First Selectman Kevin Moyan expressed his condolences to the family of the child. All of the New Canaan is heartbroken over the tragic loss of a young life today. He said, our thoughts and prayers are with the parents and their families. North Wilton Road is roughly 2.25-mile roadway in the North New Canaan with several large estates and long driveways. The winding residential street located in a wooded area is lined with a short stone wall. And this just goes on and gives you a little bit more about all the people that have died in there. But it is truly sad, guys. It's been a crazy day. Crazy. And again, there is another article about the officer and the 3 civilians and the 2 suspects that are dead. And I'm not going to read it again, but I did have more than one article on that. And this here article, again, we're recovering it, says that a double stabbing leaves 15 years old and 11-year-old injured in Newark. A 15-year-old is dead and the 11-year-old is wounded. Newark, New Jersey. 5 people were taken into custody after a double stabbing left a 15-year-old dead and an 11-year-old wounded in Newark. The incident was reported around 11 a.m. Tuesday morning at an apartment building near Highland and Park Avenues. The 15-year-old was pronounced dead at the scene, and the 11-year-old suffered non-life-threatening injuries and was taken to the hospital. Officials say 5 people were taken into custody and questioned in connection to the stabbings. They are all considered persons of interest. Newark Public Safety Director Anthony Ambrose said the preliminary investigation reveals there is no threat to the public. The motive in the stabbing remains unknown, and authorities are still searching for the weapon used in the incident. Few other details were released, and the investigation is ongoing. And that is the last update that they have given on that. And let's see here real quick. Okay. All right, guys. And hopefully going to give you this link. It is very upsetting. It really, truly is, guys. And there is the Wixit site, guys. You got kicked off. Oh no! And a hard time getting back on. Wow. I'm sorry, GTO mama. All these lockdowns make you wonder if the DHS or other 3-letter agencies have info that a terrorist cell is planning a nationwide attack. You know, I would definitely say that I would think that there's much more going on than meets the eye here. But who knows? I mean, is it really truly all that a coincidence? Did all these things happen about the same time? You know, several states apart. Just kind of crazy stuff happening. And this is one of the reasons why you have got to stay extremely vigilant and aware of your surroundings at all times. It's just crazy, guys. Truly crazy. Okay. So then we are going to talk about, I have two different articles, and it's on the Wixit site, but I'm going to read the Fox News article because, of course, I really never heard of this Mercury News now. But Mercury News also has this article about the U.S. pausing the training for hundreds of Saudi military personnel, which I think they should. I believe that it's, it's overdue. Overdue. According to Fox News, though, we're going to read this article. According to Fox News, it says, after the NAS Pensacola shooting, Navy suspends the flight training for nearly 300 Saudi students, official says. The U.S. Navy on Tuesday suspended nearly 300 Saudi students from flight training in a response to the deadly shooting by a Saudi student last Friday in Pensacola, Florida, a senior U.S. defense official told Fox News. Navy Commander Clay Doss said a classroom and flight training will resume for other students this week. He did not say how long the flight stand down for the Saudi students will continue. Well, I hope it continues indefinitely. Mohammed Sahad Al-Shamanir, a 21-year-old aviation student from Saudi Arabia, opened fire at a naval station, Pensacola, killing 3 military members and injuring 8 others. Police shot and killed the Saudi gunman. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Sunday said the investigation was proceeding under the presumption that it was an act of terrorism. He urged stronger security precautions for foreign nationals training on U.S. military bases. To have the individual be able to take out 3 of our sailors, to me, that's unacceptable, DeSantis said. Lieutenant Commander Megan Isaac, a Pentagon spokesperson, told Fox News that the training was suspended over the weekend for all personnel. The flight restriction put in place this week would affect 140 students at Pensacola Naval Air Station, where the shooting occurred, and 35 at a nearby Whiting Field. Another 128 students at a naval air station, Mayport, on the Atlantic seaboard, would also face restrictions. Doss said that the stand down was an effort to ensure that the safety of the students as they recovered from the trauma of the shooting. Well, I would say that it needs to be a permanent stand down, but that's just my opinion, guys. And it is, and it is sad. It is extremely sad, guys, to see all of this transpiring everywhere. It truly is just disgusting. We will. Okay. And let's not think that it's only happening here, because I have an article from Reuters that says it was updated 8 hours ago that a gunman kills 6 in a Czech hospital waiting room. It's before shooting himself. Ostrov, Czech Republic, a 42-year-old, and this is from Reuters, guys, a 42-year-old gunman killed 6 people on Tuesday at a hospital waiting room in eastern Czech's city of Ostrov before fleeing and fatally shooting himself in the head, police said. It was the worst shooting in the Czech Republic, where gun crime is relatively rare, since a man shot 8 people dead and killed himself in a restaurant in Uherský Brod in 2015. It was unclear what motivated the shooting, which happened in the early morning at the outpatient clinic of the University Hospital in Ostrava, a city of 290,000 people. 350 kilometers east of the capital, Prague, and near the border with Poland. Prime Minister Andrej Babis told reporters it was an individual act. He came home and announced he had shot people and that he is going to shoot himself, Babis told a televised news conference. He said the attacker's mother was cooperating with police. The shooter fled the police after the attack, prompting a manhunt involving hundreds of officers. He later shot himself in the head at his car with a police helicopter flying overhead. He died about a half an hour later after failed efforts to resuscitate him, Interior Minister Jan Hammack said. The shooter was identified identified as Citrid Vatasic, a construction technician at the Arizona Intergrips company based in Opfa, just northeast of Ostrov, by the firm's chairman, Alice Zagila. Zagila told Reuters that Vitesk had been on medical leave for the past month and a half. He had also told the Czech radio and that Vitesk was convinced he was seriously ill and that no one wanted to cure him. Police said that they received a call at 7:19 a.m. and officers were on the scene 5 minutes later. Hospital director Juri Harvent told reporters 5 people died in the attack and 1 died in surgery. Another 2 were seriously injured, but no medics were hurt, he said. The victims, all adults, had been shot at close range, he said. Police said that there were 4 men and 2 women, amending earlier information that 5 of the victims were men. The head of the regional police department, Thomas Gazelle, said that the attacker, who did not have a gun license, was silent as he carried out the shooting with a 9mm Czech handgun. The suspect had a criminal record, including instances of violence and theft, he said. Police dispatched 2 helicopters to hunt him. When the helicopter was over the car, the perpetrator shot himself in the head, Gazelle said. He died from self-inflicted wounds. So you can see that, the United States is not the only place that we're having this ramped up violence everywhere. It is just really, truly sad. And I want to touch really quick. I'm not going to read the article because I think we've covered the volcano eruption in New Zealand already, but we might read just a little bit, okay? But according to the Newsweek, which we all have already came to this conclusion, we really truly don't need to be told this, it's just common sense, but it says the deadly volcano should never have been open to tourists, says an expert who felt distinctively uncomfortable when he went there. The volcano on the island off the coast of New Zealand, whose eruption has claimed at least 6 lives, was too dangerous for tourists to visit, a prominent volcanologist had told Newsweek. New Zealand police say that 8 people who remain missing on White Island off the country's northeastern coastal town of Wakatan are likely to have died in the eruption on Monday and are considered whether to open a criminal investigation. Emeritus professor in the geoscience at Melbourne's Monash University, Raymond Koss, said he noted that the dangers immediately when he had previously visited White Island, known in Maori as Waka area. He said the island's remote location, 30 miles off the coast, meant it was impossible if an emergency to get help quickly. Apart from the logistics, the nature of the volcano, one of New Zealand's most active, meant it was not a good place to allow the general public and tourists to be roaming around. I have been to White Island twice, and both times, as soon as I landed, I felt distinctively uncomfortable, he told Newsweek. When you are on the island, you walk into a huge amphitheater-like crater, and you are immediately confronted with a mainly steaming gas vents exuding all kinds of noxious gases. A number of times, one of those craters' lakes can be suddenly overflowed, and you can get a torrent of boiling water down the slope, he said, which posed a danger of significant burns. It is an island volcano, and the magma is shallow. It can produce sudden steam-driven geothermal explosions, even when the threat level, in this case 2 out of 5, is quite low, he said. When the pressure is released, those explosions are not easy to detect and in many cases are impossible to detect, unlike the volcanic explosion driven by gases being released by erupting molten rock and magma. Anyway, so we have a volcanologist speaking out against this, and I mean, I think it just goes without saying. There should not have been anybody out there. There should have been warning signs, and I think that, that this accident could have been prevented. You're not going to stop the volcano from exploding, but you can stop the loss of life by closing your tour. But, I guess making money is more important to some people. Okay, so then we also have an update also on France workers back on the streets against the planned pension reform. This story originated it was December 4th. Um, is when this started, and today is the 10th. So it's been ongoing for about 6 days, guys. Hundreds of thousands of people have demonstrated across France on the sixth day of transport strike. Exactly, against the pension reforms that has significantly disrupted travel. The protest on Tuesday took place a day before President Emmanuel Macron's government unveils its long-awaited details of a planned pension overhaul. According to the Interior Ministry estimates, some 339,000 people took part in a nationwide demonstrations marked down on the first day of protest, and on December 5th, with more than 800,000 people took to the streets. Nevertheless, the union showed no signs of backing down in their biggest show of force since Macron took office in 2017, pledging to cut public spending and make the economy more competitive. Given the depths of the discontent, there is a need to get more people on the streets, Philippe Martinez, head of the hard-left CGT, told reporters before leading a protest march in Paris. Behind Martinez, protesters chanted, "Macron, we're coming to get you," and waved banners reading, "Strike or die of hunger." Macron is determined to simplify a system of more than 40 separate pension plans. He says a single points-based system would be fair, given every pensioner the same rights for each euro contributed. The union said Macron wants to strip workers of hard-earned benefits and threatens their quality of life. The strikes have followed months of negotiations. Meanwhile, French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe on Tuesday warned governing party MPs to brace for a long road ahead for downplaying the prospect of a speedy breakthrough. Philippe, who on Wednesday will unveil the details of the pensions overhaul, said there would be no magic announcement that would bring the protests to a sudden halt. So, and there's a little bit more there, but as you can see, it doesn't look like these protests are going to end anytime soon. And here's a lovely picture of what is transpiring there. And of course, I would be angry as well, because I say, who are they to mess with somebody's money, guys? Let's see here. We also have from South China Morning Post that there was a Chilean military plane with 38 vanishes on the Antarctica mission. It says the Chile's Air Force has lost radio contact with a transport plane carrying 38 people on flight to the country's base in Antarctica. It said the military had declared an alert and activated a search and rescue. The C-130 Hercules carried 17 crew members and 21 passengers. The personnel were to check in on a floating fuel supply line and other equipment at the President Eduardo Frei Montalvo base, Chile's most important Antarctica base. The plane took off at 4:55 on Monday in another city of Punta Arenas, which is more than 3,000 kilometers from the capital of Santiago. Contact was lost at 6:13, the statement said. President Sebastian Pinheiro said via Twitter that he was the defense and interior minister at the Air Force headquarters monitoring developments. General Eduardo Mosquera of the 4th Air Brigade told local media that a search was underway and a ship was in the area where the plane should have been when contact was lost. Okay, but I think I have an article that says it was found. Chile, this one here article comes from RT, and it says Chilean military transport plane with 38 people on board declared crashed after vanishing en route to the Antarctic. A search and rescue operation was launched after Chilean military transport aircraft carrying 38 passengers and crew had gone missing, losing radio contact on its way to the base in Antarctica. The aircraft is considered to have crashed because it would have run out of fuel by now and could not fly any longer, the director of operations of the Chilean Air Force, Brigadier General Francisco Torres, told reporters. but there is always a possibility that if it is managed to land somewhere, he said, adding that the plane did not send any distress calls. The C-130 Hercules transport craft took off from Chapaco Air Base in the city of Punta Arenas in Chile's far south at 4:55 local time on Monday and completely went off radar about an hour later. It was flying on a routine support and maintenance mission to the President Eduardo Frei Montalva Air Base in Antarctica and had 38 people on board. That's a lot of people for a routine maintenance check, don't you think, guys? Just saying. Um, Anyway, President Sebastian Pinera declared a search and rescue operation with the focus on finding potential survivors. The whereabouts of the plane are still unknown. The Presidente Eduardo Frei Montalva Air Base is the largest of Chile's 4 permanent installations on the icy continent, where the country claims a slice of territory covering the South Shetland Islands, the Antarctica Peninsula, and several other adjacent islands. The base is supported by the tiny commune of Villa Las Estrellas, which has a population of about 150 in the summer between October and February, and only 80 for the rest of the year. Not a very populated place. Mercy. Okay. All right, guys. Now, this here article comes from Sputnik News, and it says there's a UF frenzy in Berlin as a mysteriously lights in the sky stun onlookers in German capital report. The stray night spectacular, with some described as a string of pearls or a fairy lights in the sky, prompted Berliners to search for answers on the internet, Googling UFO sighting and meteors, or sharing their concerns with deemed organizations' local media report. The string of lights, which floated over the German capital Berlin and neighboring Brandenburg over the past few nights and early mornings, have worried locals. As the local outlet Morgan Post reports, Google searches for UFO sightings, meteor or meteorites spiked, while platforms dedicated to the UFO sightings registered numerous reports about what users described as a string of pearls or fairy lights. The Central Exploration Network of Extraordinary Sky Phenomenon, CENAP, noted that they had recently received an unusual number of calls. The calls have increased greatly. Many women and men are worried or supervised by the lights and their form. It is a representative, Hans-Jürgen Kohler, told the outlet. However, the explanation for the unusual night show is not in fact otherworldly. It turns out that there was not aliens who lit up the sky, worrying locals, but a billionaire Elon Musk SpaceX, the mysterious fireballs, where its satellites, which the company launched in mid-November as part of the global program Starlink, which began in May and is designed to provide high-speed broadband internet worldwide. In fact, the German Aerospace Center, DLR, warned already last week that Musk satellites, weighing more than 200 kilograms, each will be seen as fairy lights over Germany. The European Space Agency also confirmed that over the past few days, Starlink satellites have been visible very clearly over Germany. Although an alien invasion and any danger for Berlinians is off the table, the Starlink satellites can still possess a threat to other celestial bodies. The danger of a collision with other celestial bodies exists, a spokesperson for the Starkenberg Observatory in Hapnen said. So, what people thought was aliens turns out to be Elon Musk. And I don't think he's an alien, although maybe some might disagree. And okay, so before I go and get into all the, political part of this, I've got one other story to cover that's not political. It's about Walmart. And we're going to cover that. And then we're going to go and look and see if we can find a live update, because I'm curious as to what's going on in Greenfield, Indiana, guys. Hey, Gloria, how are you, honey? Um, anyways, and was checking out, was the story that you were talking about, was that the one that I just read about the Chilean plane that went off the map, and they're looking, it's now a search and they believe it's crashed? Because I was searching, and that's all that I found, Miss Gloria. Yes, okay, good deal. All right, making sure. Okay, so, and thank you for that heads up, girl. I appreciate it really much. Okay, so Walmart now, according to US Newsweek, is testing self-driving cars for grocery delivery in Houston. Walmart announced partnership with the robotics company Nuro on Tuesday to test a system for delivering groceries with self-driving vehicles beginning in January of 2020. The retail giant has been in the grocery delivery business since 2011, when it first began to pilot a program in California that allowed customers to order their groceries online. Reorders reported this new program with the California-based tech company, which has worked on an autonomous vehicles in the past, will be tested in one Walmart grocery store in Houston, Texas, the fourth largest city in the United States by population. The Walmart mission is to help people save money so they can live better. Nuro noted in a blog post it published Tuesday about the partnership. Walmart's dedication to its customers align with Nuro's mission of accelerating the benefits of robotics for everyday life through improved convenience and delightful experience. The service will be available at the Walmart Neighborhood Market location at 97 Hillcroft Street in Houston, a spokesperson for Walmart told Newsweek in an email. The spokesperson also wrote that the self-operating vehicles will deliver in the zip codes of 77096, 77035, and 77401. The three zip codes that cover the area near Rice University, located in southwestern part of Harris County. Part of the 77035 zip code delivery area falls within the Houston's many food deserts, or areas where fresh meat, healthy food is not readily available to residents, according to the Houston Area Food Access Analysis Tools. As reported by the Houston Chronicle, almost 250,000 people in Houston area do not have access to the nutritious foods. They are only part of the estimated 23.5 million Americans living in food deserts. Usually food deserts are home to ethnic minorities and people whose incomes are lower than national average. As the Chronicle reported, the food desert problem in Houston has promoted the city to partake with local farmers associations and farmer markets to deliver fresh foods to residents who cannot afford to drive to the grocery stores outside of their neighborhoods, who pay for delivery. As for the delivery program with Nuro, Walmart has not yet determined how much it will cost to use. The Walmart spokesperson told Newsweek, "We've already been bringing the best of Walmart to our customers through grocery pickup and delivery." The senior vice president for digital operations for Walmart US wrote in the press release, "By continuing to test autonomous vehicle capabilities, we're better able to understand the path self-driving technology and can take us down that road." So another way to put somebody out of work, in my opinion, as reported by TechCrunch, Walmart's collaboration with Nuro is by no means the company's first foray in autonomous delivery. It formerly endeavored to test this method of obtaining groceries in other states with other companies, including Postmates, Ford Motor Company, and UDelv. Anyway, it is just another way to put people out of work. And again, before we get into the political part of this news that I have, we will see if we can find an update on the Greenfield situation there, guys. Um, let's see. There's not anything that's newer, but here there's more articles now. The one earlier. This here is from Fox 59, and it says officials, Greenfield SWAT situation was a result of a hoax. There we go. That's why we didn't get no live footage. It was a hoax. Mary Vlogs, I think that's, let's see, is she even still here? Yeah, Marley's house vlog, it was a hoax, sweetheart. Just letting you know. It said authorities in Greenville say the SWAT situation is now over, and after they determined the reported threat to be a hoax. There is no ongoing threat to the public. An active situation in Greenfield has police requesting the people in the affected area to take shelter in place for their own safety. And it's saying that it was a hoax situation. So anyway, the Greenfield Police Department says the 700 block of the West Main Street is the area impacted. Police have listed closures. It's unclear though what caused the situation, but they're saying it's resulted as a hoax, so it's not an ongoing situation. So I will link both of these stories into my news link, and we will continue on. So there is no active situation in Indiana, thank goodness. So much going on everywhere, it's kind of hard. I want to talk about this one article right here. I don't think I'm going to read it. It just depends on how I feel after I start reading you guys this headline, though. Don't listen, Susie Q. Susie B. Oh, don't you listen to the devil, Susie Q, honey. We rebuke that. Okay, so Newsweek has put out that Trump is lying about the IG report, a former FBI assistant director claims. The president hasn't read it. And this is coming from, of course, you know who. The former assistant director of the FBI accused President Donald Trump of mischaracterizing the Inspector General Michael Horowitz report into the Crossfire hurricane investigation and lying about it. The IG report found no evidence that the investigation, which focused on individuals connected to the Trump campaign amid suspicion of the Russian interference in the 2016 election, was tainted with political bias by the overseeing or conducting it. However, the IG report did criticize the FBI for its handling of our four FISA applications to place Carter Page, a foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign, with links to the Russian intelligence officers under surveillance. Those four applications contained 17 significant inaccuracies and omissions, the IG report said. That, if properly conveyed to the court, weakened the case to place Page under surveillance. Page was eventually cleared of any wrongdoing related to the Russians' election meddling. And I think you're a brave soul to come out and just say that the president is lying. I mean, you know, I really feel bad for someone that has to go and just say someone is just blatantly lying. I would dare say, you know, just coming right out and calling someone a liar is not right in my book. But, you know, and again, I don't really like Newsweek a whole lot for articles that pertain to, yeah, and I agree with you too there. I have not read this report, and I'm going to tell you why I have not read this report. I read several others of the OIG of Horowitz's reports, right? I've read several of his other reports, and they have all been big letdowns. They've all been whitewashes. So do I want to read another report that whitewashes, that just, you know, pacifies the FBI? No, I really don't. So I can piece it together by other things, and that's what I've been doing. My mom's been keeping me abreast on it. I might at a later time decide to read it, but right now, there's been so many things happening. I just ain't had the time to either. Okay, so then we have, according to Newsweek, we have an article that says, despite the Trump's impeachment, Congress is closing in on the budget deal to avoid the shutdown, lawmakers say. The congressional appropriators Tuesday emerged optimistic from a private meeting with the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, a Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, expressing confidence that despite the House fast-moving efforts to impeach the president, Congress will be able to avert a looming government shutdown. Unless a new budget or temporary funding measure is passed and signed into law by the end of the day, December 20th, the government will shut down. How many times have we heard this all year, guys? Congress is yet to pass any of the 12 appropriation bills. We can finish our work with a couple of loose ends by the end of the week, Representative Nita Lowey, a Democrat New York chairman of the Appropriations Committee, told reporters outside the Speaker's office. At another meeting scheduled for Thursday, Lowey said it was her hope that the decisions that have been made will be really limited and only the task of tying up the loose ends will remain. She added that several hundred outstanding items the various parties disagree over were normal for the appropriations process. Lowey was flanked by Senator Richard Shelby, a Republican from Alabama, chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, who expressed an equal amount of confidence that a budget would be able to pass nearly 3 months into the current fiscal year. So we've got both people saying that they think it'll go through. So we'll see. Wait and see. But I'm just so sick of hearing how everybody says, okay, you're going to eat supper? Okay, love you too, Susie Q. How people will just put all that mess out. But anyway, we've been hearing this all year long about the shutdown. It seems like it's ongoing. Every time that there's something coming up, it's ongoing. Okay. So now Brett Baer, however you want to say his name, has 31 Trump district Democrats will decide impeachment's fate in the House. It says 2 of them already voted against the partisan impeachment pushed by their own party's leadership and are expected to again, but the fate of the articles of impeachment rests in the hands of 31 Democrats who represent districts won by President Donald Trump in 2016. The 2 Democrats who voted no on the partisan impeachment inquiry authorization vote, Representative Jeff Van Drew from New Jersey, a Democrat, and Colin Peterson, a Democrat from Minnesota, are expected to again join all the Republicans in the House in opposing their partisan articles of impeachment vote when it does come to the floor. The looming question, however, is whether they will be joined by Trump district Democrats, and if so, how many will join them. No other so-called moderate Democrats have publicly announced their intentions to oppose the articles of impeachment vote on the floor of the House. But Politico reported on Tuesday that a group of 10 to 12 of them are circulating a plan to censure Trump instead of impeaching him. An alternate option they hope will make them look more reasonable than the highly partisan forces driving their party towards a highly partisan impeachment vote. A small group of vulnerable House Democrats is floating the long shot ideal of censoring President Donald Trump instead of impeaching him, according to the multiple lawmakers familiar with the conservatives, politicals Sarah Ferris and Melanie Zanana reported on Tuesday. Those Democrats are representing districts that Trump won in 2016, huddled on Monday afternoon in the 11th hour bid to weigh additionally, though unlikely, options to punish the president for his role in the Ukraine scandal as the House speeds towards an impeachment vote next week. The group of about 10 members include Representative Josh Gottheimer, Kurt Schrader, Anthony Brindis, and Ben McAdams. And of course, they're all Democrats. The list of 31 Democrats who represent the district 21, and there's a list of them, guys, and I'm not going to read all of them. But it says Given the fact that the 0 Republicans are expected to vote for the articles of impeachment against Trump in the House of Representatives, and no Republicans are expected to vote for conviction in the Senate trial, that the House passage of impeachment would force the move by House Democrat leaders to remains hopelessly partisan and destined to fail. In the U.S. Senate, Democrats would need to flip at least 20 Republican senators. They currently have 0, and there is no indication any Republicans would join them, assuming they hold all 47 Democrats in the Senate conference together, which is not a foregone conclusion by any stretch, as Brett Baier News has reported that several Senate Democrats are not yet on board with voting to convict Trump. So look, even their own party members are not all in agreement on this. And there's a little bit more to this, but I mean, we get the logistics of it. Not everybody is in agreement with this hoax that is being perpetrated by the Democrats. And there is nothing to impeach him on. Impeach him for doing his job? Give me a break. Then we have RT reports abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Democrats unveil charges in the Trump impeachment. The U.S. House Judiciary Panel Chairman Jerry Nadler has announced that 2 articles of impeachment will be introduced against President Donald Trump, including one for abuse of power. Speaking to the reporters on Tuesday, Nadler said Trump abused his power by pressuring Ukraine and that he has declared himself above accountability. No one, not even the president, is above the law, quoted. He said that the second article of impeachment will be for obstruction of Congress. The Judiciary Committee will meet later this week to consider these articles. Nadler also claimed that the lawmakers must act now because their integrity of the 2020 elections are at stake. And that's what this has been about, guys. It's all been about the election. It hasn't been about any crime that has been committed. It's been about them, of course, upset that we, the people, elected Donald Trump as our president, and they are trying to undo what we, the people, did. And that's what this is all about. In a statement following the unveiling of the charges, Trump's 2020 campaign manager, yeah, exactly, Gloria. Campaign manager Brad Parscale said impeachment was too divisive and Americans don't agree with this rank partisanship. The Democrats, he added, are putting on this political theater because they don't have a viable candidate for 2020 and they know it. Trump is now officially the 4th U.S. president to face impeachment, and if impeached, would be the 3rd to face a trial in the Senate. Democrats launched impeachment proceedings on the back of the whistleblower claims that Trump had tried to pressure Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to open corruption probe into a gas company employing former VP Joe Biden's son, Hunter. They claimed that Trump offered Zelensky a quid pro quo, offering military aid in return for an investigation, which could hurt Biden politically during the 2020 presidential campaign. The White House official to respond to the introduction of impeachment articles, Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, told the Wall Street Journal that the impeachment inquiry was a political process, not a legal process. And again, I reiterate, that's exactly what it is. There is nothing legal about what they are doing. In fact, it's actually unconstitutional. On Twitter, Trump himself hit back saying that the notion that he pressured Ukraine was ridiculous and that Nadler knows that this is not true. Republicans believe the impeachment inquiry is a political witch hunt against the president and say that Democrats have so far produced no solid proof of any wrongdoing by Trump. And they haven't. We have seen with our own eyes, we've seen this, the transcript. We saw the call. There's nothing there. Nothing. Anyway, Zero Hedge has Schiff memo debunked by IG report. Nunes is vindicated. In February of 2018, Republicans and Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee released separate reports after spending months looking at the FBI's conduct during the 2016 U.S. election. The Republicans, led by then Chairman Devin Nunes, a Republican from California, claimed the FBI used the unverified Steele dossier in October 2016 to obtain a surveillance warrant on former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. The agency concealed the fact that the Steele dossier was funded in part by the Clinton campaign, as well as the fact that the salacious document was in its infancy at the time of the FISA application. Fusion GPS employee Nellie Orr funneled her anti-Trump research to her husband, Bruce, who was then the number 4 at the DOJ and since demoted for lying about his involvement with Steele. A former MI6 operative working for the Fusion GPS dig up dirt on Donald Trump and his campaign. The dossier was only minimal corroborated according to the FBI officials, who could not verify its claims. Democrats led by the minority leader and current chairman Adam Schiff claimed in response. The FBI and DOJ did not exclude information from the FISA warrant application. The DOJ provided corroborating information and subsequent FISA renewals which backed Steele's claim. The FBI was able to collect valuable intelligence from the FISA warrant on Carter Page. The DOJ made Steele's credentials clear to the FISA court and did not omit material facts about the former UK spy. The FBI underwent a rigorous process to investigate and vet Steele's claims. And that's what they said. That's Schiff's response. Steele's previous work has been used in criminal proceedings. Who cares what his work had been used criminally before? It says a contraire Schiff Monday's FISA report supports the Nunes memo and debunks the Schiff memo, as explained by the Federalist Molly Hemingway. Horowitz found that the FBI and DOJ officials did in fact omit critical material information from the FISA warrant, including several items exculpatory to Page material facts were not just omitted but willfully hidden through doctoring of evidence. The warrants were based on the Steele's dossier, which was known by January 2017. So it's not even that they were just withheld, but they were also doctored. The warrants were based on the Steele's dossier, which was known by January 27th to be ridiculously uncorroborated. The renewals did not find information that corroborated Steele's reporting. The warrants clearly didn't allow the FBI to collect valuable intelligence, and Steele's prior reporting was not used in the criminal proceedings, the Federalist reports. They aren't going to the Senate with impeachment, but they are already poked the bear in the Senate. They're going to be exposed big time. Yep. It says, we found that the FBI did not have the information corroborating the specific allegations against Carter Page in the Steele's reporting when it relied upon his reports in the first FISA application or subsequent renewal applications. Read the executive summary of the IG reports. Hemingway continues via the Federalist. The media joined Department of Justice bureaucrats in bitterly opposing the release of the Nunes memo. The Justice Department released a letter to the press saying that the action was extraordinarily reckless, would be damaging to national security, and would risk damage to our intelligence community or the important work it does in safeguarding the American people. Then, when the report was released, the media made a variety of contradictory claims, all of them downplaying or dismissing the memo as nothing whatsoever. Why were the Democrats so worried about the Nunes memo? Asked the New Yorker. Rachel Maddow said that far from destroying national security, instead the memo delivered a sad trombone for Trump. It's a joke and a sham, claimed Washington Post writers. The memo purports to show that the process by which the FBI and Justice Department obtained approval from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court to conduct surveillance on former Trump advisor Carter Page was deeply tainted, the Post article says. It does this by straining every which way to suggest that the bias for the warrant that was so-called Steele dossier, which contains Democrat-funded research by former British spy Christopher Steele. The IG confirmed this week that the efforts to secure a warrant to spy on Page were dropped due to the lack of evidence until the Steele delivered his memo. On the other hand, Salon called the memo fake news. New York Magazine, Jonathan Chait, who fervently believes that Trump is a traitor who colluded with Russia to steal the 2016 election. All evidence to the contrary went even further. The Nunes memo is a fake, and Russia's scandal is a very real. He claimed while the evidence of that the DOJ had been corrupt or even sloppy in its investigation has disintegrated, evidence in the seriousness and the investigation itself is grown progressively stronger, Chait claimed. CNN had their good buddy James Clapper as Obama intelligence chief say that the memo was a blatant political act. John Brenner, Obama's CIA chief, who was implicated in the spying on Trump campaign, told Politico that the memo was exceptionally partisan. Politico claimed the memo makes no sense. Nunes' memo accidentally confirms the legitimacy of the FBI's investigation, asserted that the insert, all smoke, no fire, claimed resistance member Orrin Kerr, the New York Times. The Nunes memo continues to backfire, declared the hypertension Washington Post editorial board. A great example of the general media treatment of the issue of the FISA abuse was offered by the U.S. News and World Report. Nail in the coffin for Nunes memo, declared the headline of an article that exclusively praised Schiff while utterly condemning Nunes memo was a bad joke from the start, the author writes, going on to assert that Page was a dangerous agent of Russia. Multiple Trump campaign operatives were surveilled for excellent reason, and the ex-British spy secretly hired by Hillary Clinton to produce the dossier alleging Trump was a secret agent of Russia was simply beyond reproach. If the GOP's defense of Page is puzzling, so its targeting of Steele was accomplished by a British former spy with an expertise in Russia, and Vladimir Putin claimed the U.S. News and World Report article Steele's reputation with most reporters was not based in reality, and he doesn't even claim he verified any of the information in his report, which a sprawling special counsel investigation was unable to corroborate in any of its central and major claims. It is unclear if the media will revisit, much less apologize for, their false claims about the Nunes memo or credulous support for the Schiff's memo. Well, of course they're not going to go back and admit that they went along with lies. They slammed Nunes at every turn, and you think they're really going to go back and say, oh, we're sorry. No, they're not. It's ridiculous, guys. It truly is. And there's no end in sight, it does not look like. And of course, what else does that FISA report reveal? That FISA report from Zero Hedge has come out and said it. We just talked about it in the other report. But that FISA report reveals that Clinton meddled in the 2016 election. If Russia spending $100,000 on Facebook ads constitutes election interference, and Donald Trump asking Ukraine to investigate the Biden is too, then Hillary Clinton takes the cake when it comes to influence campaigns designed to harm a political opponent. Contained within Monday's FISA report by the DOJ Inspector General is the revelation that Fusion GPS, the firm paid by the Clinton campaign to produce the Steele dossier, was paying the Steele to discuss his reporting with the media, page 369 and elsewhere in the FISA report. Omitted information from the department attorney Bruce Orr about the Steele and his election reporting, including that Steele's reporting was going to Clinton's presidential campaign and others. Simpson was paying Steele to discuss his reporting with the media. 3. Steele was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being the U.S. president. And this is all in this article, so if you guys go and check it out, you can see it's all underlined, and they highlight it all. And it says, and when Steele did talk with the media, which got him fired as an FBI source, September of 2016, roughly 6 weeks before the election, one of the more damaging articles to result from these meetings was authored by Yahoo News journalist Michael Isikoff, who said in an interview that he was invited by Fusion GPS to meet a secret source at the Washington restaurant. The secret source was none other than Christopher Steele, a former MI6 Russia expert who fed the Iskov information for September 23rd, 2016 article, which would have far greater reach and impact coming from which a widely read media outlet versus $100,000 in Russian bought a Facebook ad. Ishkov's article claimed that the former Trump campaign aide, Carter Page, has opened up private communications with the senior Russian officials, including talks about the possible lifting of economic sanctions if the Republican nominee becomes president. This allegation was found by special counsel Robert Mueller report to be false. Moreover, the FBI knew about it in December 2016, when the DOJ, Bruce Orr, told the agency as much. And the rule letter also advised the court of additional information the FBI obtained after the FISA application, but that was not included in any of the renewal application. That further undermined the FBI's assessment that Steele was not direct source of the Yahoo News disclosure. Specifically, the Rule 13 letter advised the court that in November 2016, Orr told the FBI that it was possible that the Steele and Simpson, who had hired Steele, met jointly with Yahoo News based on its information or learned from Steele in late September 2016. In addition, the letter advised that in December 2016, Orr told the FBI that part of the work Simpson was paying Steele to be included speaking with the media. We found no evidence that the Crossfire Hurricane team or any FBI officials overseeing the investigation considered advising the court or OI of this information at the time of the renewal application, as referenced above by the FBI personnel involved in the FISA. Steele told us that in September of 2016, her and Simpson gave an off-the-record briefing to a small number of journalists about his reporting. Reads page 165 of the FISA report, which says the Steele acknowledged the Yahoo News was identified in one of the court filings in the foreign litigation as being present. Put another way, Hillary Clinton paid Christopher Steele to feed information to the MSM in order to harm Donald Trump right before the 2016 election. Granted, there were intermediaries that the Clinton campaign paid the law firm Perkins Coie, which paid Fusion GPS, which paid Steele, and if asked, we're guessing, Clinton would have claimed she had no idea this happened, which quite frankly simply isn't plausible given the stakes. Whatever the case, the act of Simpson's paying Steele to peddle fiction to the media for the purpose of harming Trump by itself constitutes blatant election meddling by every standard set by Leftover for the past 3 years. We're sure Hillary Clinton explained that if she and when she jumps into the 2020 race. Yeah, right. Anyway, is that not just insane, guys? You know, they have all this proof and yet I guess, you know, anybody can meddle in the election, and there's no laws against it, apparently. Lindsey Graham said everyone should look at pages 186 and 190. Okay, and so Gloria said that everyone needs to visit the Horowitz report and read pages 186 to 190. So I guess that will be my homework, Gloria. I will definitely be reading it. Okay. Now, I think it was Nunes is suing CNN, I think it was. Who was Nunes suing? Nunes is suing one of the news outlets. I might not be CNN, but he is suing a news outlet. Today, from Fox News, 2 hours ago, they put out an article that Dan Bongino is filing a $15 million defamation suit against the Daily Beast for reckless disregard of the truth. And I think that people should start suing these people. Put them on notice. They cannot continue to defame and put out false information without having some kind of consequences for their actions. It says Secret Service agent turned conservative pundit Dan Bongino filed a $15 million defamation lawsuit against the Daily Beast on Tuesday for acting with actual malice and regardless disregard for the truth by reporting he was dropped by the NRA TV. I have been in an ongoing battle for a long time now with fake news media people that just report blatantly false things about me. It gets old, folks, really old. It's been personally exhausting, Bongino said in a Tuesday on his podcast. It's not a crybaby snowflake thing, it's my fight. We all have our own fights, but the Daily Beast a while back wrote a story about me, Bongino explained, that wrote the story about me that was patently false. Bongino, a Fox News contributor, explained that the December 2018 report by the Daily Report, Beast reporter Lachlan Markey said that he was dropped by the NRA TV, which he euphemisms for being fired. But the conservative pundit says the story was false. The author of the story texted me that he had heard from sources the opposite. The opposite was the true story, that I did not renew my contract, Bongino said. I was offered to stay. I was not dropped. I did not return by choice. I left. That's the story, and that was false. I gave them the opportunity multiple times, asked them on Twitter to correct it. They refused, he added. I gave them the opportunity via a text recently to correct it. They refused. We are suing the Daily Beast for $15 million. And I don't blame him, guys. The Daily Beast and Markey did not immediately respond to the request for comment. And I'm waiting for to hear the report that Rudy Giuliani is going to sue the Daily Beast, because I read two articles, both put out by the Daily Beast yesterday, and of course they made him sound like he's just some loon over there, entertaining mobsters, and that's exactly what they made it out to be. Not that he's over there getting the truth and getting down to the bottom line of everything, but that he's over there, playing around with mobsters. Anyway, the complaint obtained by Fox News was filed in the Southern District of Florida. The complaint says that calls the Beast a digital assassin owned and controlled by billionaire Clinton devotees Barry Diller and Diane von Furstenberg. The complaint says the Beast falsely stated that Bongino was fired by the NRA TV despite the news organization having proof of the contrary. The document included a text message from Markey in which he said to Bongino, "Heard you didn't renew that NRA TV." As evidenced by his text, Markey knew the NRA TV had not dropped plaintiff according to this complaint. Anyway, there's just a little bit more of that, but kudos to him, and I hope he gets every penny of that $15 million. Okay, and guys, this is the last story. We have just a few minutes to go before we're going to go into Bible, but I'm going to take about a 15-minute break, and we will start up with Bible. Anyway, so it's about to get very bad, according to Zero Hedge. He's got this article that says it's about to get very bad. Repo market legend predicts market crash in days. For the past decade, the name of Zoltan Pozsar has been among the most admired and respected on Wall Street. Not only did the Hungarian lay the groundwork for our current understanding of the deposit-free shadow banking system, which has often opaque and painfully complex short-term dollar funding and repo markets at its core, but he was also instrumental during his tenure at both the U.S. Treasury and the New York Fed in laying the foundations of the modern repo market, orchestrating the response to the global financial crisis and ensuing policy debate, as the virtually nobody at the Fed knew more about repo at the time than Pozsar, serving as point person on market developments for Fed Treasury and White House officials throughout the crisis. Yes, Kasharsky was just the figurehead, playing the key role in the building that TOF to backstop the ABS market and advising the former head of the Fed's markets desk, Brian Sack, on just how the NY Fed should implement its various market interventions without disrupting any breaking the most important market of multi-trillion repo market. In short, when Pozsar speaks, or as the case may be, writes, people listen and read. So he's the new E.F. Hutton of Wall Street, I guess you could say. Anyway, and since Pozsar moved from the public, and in case people don't know, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listened. Or at least that's what the stupid commercials used to say, way back in the day. And since Pozsar moved from the public sector to Credit Suisse in February 2015 to write his market moving, at least for those who can understand it, periodical global money notes, it has been relatively easy to keep track of his thoughts and observations and the repo market as they change over time. Which brings us to the latest global money notes, number 26, published overnight, in which Pozar delivers his scathing assessment of the Fed's latest intervention to stabilize repo markets since September 16th, the repo apocalypse, that sent overnight repo rates as high as 10% in what was previously seen as the impossible event. Of course, as we saw 3 months ago, not only was this event possible, but it led a shockwave of confusion as to what caused it, prompting even the BIS to chime in over the weekend with a fascinating theory discussed previously that the hedge funds were among the causes for the repo fireworks as they scrambled to procure findings to prevent their massively levered relative value trades in which they brought the TSYs and sold equivalent derivatives contracts from collapsing, while Pozar's does not focus as much on the causes of the repo apocalypse, having previously covered them in depth in his prior money notes, and he would know, as noted above, Pozar is the de facto architect of their modern U.S. repo system. What he does do in the latest note, tidily ominously countdown to the QE4, is explain why the Fed's interventions to date have failed to reverse the underlying plumbing issue in the banking system, manifesting themselves in a dramatic increase in treasury at the biggest U.S. bank, JP Morgan. At the largest U.S. bank, something we addressed previously when we discussed how J.P. Morgan gained the financial system to trigger not the QE, and topic the Bloomberg touches an overnight in repo firepower reduced by failing cash levels at the big U.S. banks. As Pozar cautions, the core problem at the heart of the repo blockage is that the banks shifted from owning reserves to collateral, mostly treasuries, for reasons we will address shortly. Larger U.S. banks like J.P. Morgan, that are the central to year-end flows, spent more than $350 billion of excess reserves on collateral since the beginning of the Fed's balance sheet taper, leaving banks, and especially JP Morgan, dangerously low on reserves. And while one can debate why banks shifted away from the reserves to collateral, Pozar had a simple theory. Dealers and banks loaded up on the collateral as a trade they were supposed to be taken out of eventually, the coupon purchases by the Fed. In other words, here is a former Fed official admitting that the banks were purchasing treasuries as nothing more than the QE front-running ploy, something which the Fed has previously sworn was never the intention behind the QE. After all, if it emerges that the Fed is essentially facilitating taxpayer-funded and perfectly legal front-running, making bank execs even richer in the process, the U.S. Central Bank would have even fewer fans. And yet, here is arguably the most respected ex-Fed staffer explaining that one of the core roles is QE is just that. Alas, here a problem emerged because the Fed never did that, and for the first time we're heading into a year-end turn without any excess reserves. Indeed, instead of buying coupon bonds as dealers have been quietly demanding behind closed doors, a process which would allow them to sterilize their massive treasury holdings, the Fed announced in October it would only buy T-bills in order to not freak out the market. That is officially launching the QE as a reminder that the only semantic distinction between whether the Fed is doing a QE or not doing a QE is whether it is soaking up the duration. The Fed's argument is that since the bills don't have duration, it's not a QE. A QE, however, once Powell starts buying the 2Y, the 3Y, the 5Y, and so on, treasuries, the facade cracks, and the Fed will have no more defense. That what it is doing is precisely a QE4. And by buying bills, it is not allowing commercial banks to exchange their coupon holdings for reserve cash, but merely results in recirculation of sterilized bill purchases. But most people don't understand this and instead repeat the old maximum, don't fight the Fed, which they claim is adding liquidity through repos and bill purchases. And what's not in the system now will be there on year's end, and the turn will be just fine. Only, as Pozar says, not so fast, and explains, What we need for the year end turn to go well and balance sheet neutral repo operations or asset purchases aimed at what the dealers bought all year, coupons, not bills. The former to get around foreign banks, balance sheet constraints around year end, and later to ensue that the excess reserves accumulate with large banks like JP Morgan. Unfortunately, the Fed is doing neither. He goes on, repo operations are done through the tri-party system, which means that they aren't nettable, which in turns means that once balance sheet constraints start to bind around year end, foreign dealers will take less liquidity from it to lend to those in need on the peripheral. Central bank liquidity is useless unless primary dealers have a balance sheet to pass it on, and they have been passing it since September. Does that not mean they will at year end? Bill purchases are also ill conceived because banks and dealers don't own any bills and so don't have anything to sell to the Fed to boost their excess reserves ahead of the year end. In our view, the notion that the bill purchases will force money funds down the yield curve to buy short coupons from primary dealers who would then pay off their repos with banks so that the banks build up some excess reserves into the year end involves too many moving parts. Which brings us to the first of the key observations made by Prasad. Since the Fed's repos and T-bills monetizations have done virtually nothing to boost the prevailing reserve levels on the sustained years in balance sheet contains will preclude primary dealers from bidding for reserves from the Fed through the repo facility or through repos from money funds. The slope of money market curves suggests that the excess reserves won't build up at banks, and so U.S. banks will not be able to fill the market, making vacuum left by foreign banks. In other words, the already then liquidity at the year end, which, as a reminder, last December 31st sent repo rates soaring even through the excess reserves were about $100 billion, more than they are now, could get far worse as a result of the Fed's inability to properly address the reserves cash shortage plaguing banks. There is another reason why year-end liquidity is likely to get far worse, and it has to do with the bank year and the GSIB. Surcharges imposed by regulators on U.S. banks on the last day of the quarter and year, as we discussed 2 weeks ago, and the Posar explains running low on excess reserves is only one factor that determines how bad the vacuum in the market making can get around year end and turns. The GSIB scores are the other, as they determine what banks can do with whatever excess reserves they have at year end. Lend them through repos, spend them on treasuries, or lend them through the FX swaps. In that specific order, as repos are less punitive for banks, the GSIB score and the FX swaps chart. We previously provided a simple schematic of how bank GSIB scores are calculated in the following chart. But the bottom line is following that the banks seek as low as the GSIB score as possible at the year end to minimize their period end surcharge. As Posar further notes, the U.S. banks are particularly sensitive to the GSIB scores this year, as they have all moved up to the higher surcharge bucket due to bigger treasury holdings and heavier repo footprint. Every U.S. bank except Morgan Stanley has the incentive to shrink its score into a year end. It is the unique paradox emerges that the highest stock prices rise, the higher implied score a negative. Some more observations from the repo guru. The GSIB scores are moving target as they are influenced by the markets. They themselves, pushing the GSIB scores in the wrong direction this year, are equity market rally in the flat curve. The rally in equities is inflating scores through the GSIB market capitalization and the value of equities. The GSIB hold as a trading assets of available for sale securities. The flat yield curve is inflating scores through the GSIB bloated treasury portfolios, which given auction supply and the equities rally may grow further into the year end. Y'all, this is such a long article, and we are out after 8 o'clock. But anytime that you see a headline that's talking about, the market crashes in days, you want to read it. And And I really want to cover all of it, but unfortunately it is 8:08 and I am supposed to be having Bible study. I want to take about a 5-minute break, guys, and come back and we will have our Bible study. But this article, guys, is in okay. Oh, okay, sweetheart. Well, you can ask the question, Lisa Jones, if you want, sweetheart. Um, you're curious about the Saudi Arabia. They are pausing the students from participating in these classes right now, but that's what it is. But I'm going to make sure that I post one more time. I did. I posted the Wixit site, guys. The Wixit site is in my comment section in this video. So it's already there. So all you have to do is go over there and check that out, and to get the rest of that Zero Hedge article, which is really good. I love Zero Hedge. If you guys do not check out Zero Hedge every day, I would recommend that you do that. But I do try to get anything that he puts out when it pertains to the stock market, because this guy, that Pizarro, is really good. But anyway, guys, I hope to see everyone at here in about 10 minutes. It's 8 o'clock. Here in about 10 minutes, I'm going to stop and take a break, and we will continue in James tonight. I believe we're up to James 4. We might get James 4 and 5 in. I'm not sure. But give me 5-10 minutes, and I will be back with Bible study, and we will continue on. Then. But if not, if I don't see everyone else in Bible study, I hope to see you guys all in Marv tonight. It's been a crazy day. Again, I just did want to remind everybody that that the situation that occurred in Greenfield, Indiana, was a hoax, and we did discuss the situation that happened in Amarillo. It was not a hoax, but those two articles are not yet in my Wixit, but I will put those articles that I read in the Wixit so you guys can see those articles for yourself. Anyway, I do hope to see everyone in about 5-10 minutes, and then Bible study. Okay, guys, I love you all. We'll see you in just a few, and if I don't see you in Bible study, I know I'll see you in Marv. You all have a blessed night.